Thank you, Reverend Jeanette Wilson. Brother Bell, thank you for your service. Outstanding athlete, and more importantly, now a great humanitarian, giving back to our children. A dear friend of mine, Mr. Jerry Bias. Stand up, Jerry. Thank you for being in Chicago and coming here. I saw Mr. Howard Medley come in here today. Howard Medley, an outspoken man who has been a true civil rights advocate, who has been wronged by the justice system, and he continues to fight to make sure that his name is exonerated, a man that was charged and had done nothing wrong. Brothers and sisters, this has been a very news-filled week in our country. But I want you to know that hope is on the way. And I want to thank all of you for coming out here. Some people are going to be at home today taking medicine, stressed out, worrying about what Mr. Donald Trump is doing. But there's an antidote for that, and that's to stand up and fight back. You can't just stay at home, text, tweet, Periscope, FaceTime. Sometimes you have to show up, boots on the ground. Now let me tell you, America has long had a problem with its children. We spoke last week about Mrs. Phyllis Wheatley, a child that they guessed was the age between 7 and 8 years of age by the size of her teeth. She had been kidnapped, abducted from West Africa. And I want to change the narrative. She was not a slave. She was a child that had been kidnapped from West Africa. She was the first African American to be freed from slavery. She was thought not to have a soul, but she was so brilliant and prolific, she could write anagrams and poems. When they published her book in London, they put her picture on the book. The book was so popular there, they started making prints in America. But the American public would not have her picture on her book. When we talk about the kidnapping of children, we see it right now on the borders of America. But we need to take this time to open up to see what happens to America's children. We have children today in the United States. 2.7 million children have their parents incarcerated in America today. 2.7 million. There are 10 million children that have to live with their parents having been incarcerated in America today. Over 60% of those that are put in jail in America are 100 miles away from their children. 84% of those that are incarcerated in the federal penitentiary system are over 500 miles away from their children. Better than 60% of those children never visit their parents again. America has been stripping children away from their parents for a long time. It is very common in the Spanish language and in the Mexican culture to have your father and your mother's last name. There are children that were migrant workers whose parents had them here, and the hospitals had their names rearranged, so when they went back for seasonal work, their names were misspelled on their birth certificates. They corrected them in Mexico, and now there are over 600,000 children in Mexico that were born in the United States of America that are locked out. America has a problem with its children. And when we talk about children being stripped away, and I am all for the marches, and I applaud all of my brothers and sisters that are marching today. Let us open this up, never to close it again, never to go backwards in time. Now let's fight for the 50,000 Haitians that are being deported in 2019. We saw what happened in Haiti in 2010. People were going down into Haiti after the earthquake, snatching and kidnapping those children. Have they been reunified? When we talk about children being taken away from their parents, Jerry, it could be a Trayvon Martin. His mother had her child stripped away, and the young man Zimmerman still walks the street. When we talk about a Laquan McDonald, he was stripped away from his parents right here in the city of Chicago. We saw the city of Chicago this past week make a settlement with a 3-year-old child because an officer put a gun to the child's head. I want us to be a bigger and a better nation. And as we get ready for the 4th of July, And before I get to bring up the young man that's going to introduce my father, it's time for us to be more than anti-Trump. I want to see some people man up. I want to see the head of the party, and I want to call some names. I'm going to need former President Barack Obama to stand with Maxine Waters. I don't want to hear about a 79-year-old woman that's a friend and an activist who's never caused anybody any harm to be shamed. I want Mr. Schumer in New York to man up. Mrs. Waters is not uncivil. Talk that talk to the President of the United States, who said grab the women, who said throw them out, who said beat them up. Talk that talk to a man. Ladies and gentlemen, when they hit April Ryan in the newsroom at the White House, when they hit a Maxine Waters, what are you waiting for? You're next. And when our men don't stand beside our women, that's a cowardly culture. And don't act like you don't know who Congresswoman Maxine Waters is. She has fought for us day in and day in and year out, and she's never taken a break. And I'm tired of this being politicized. Now, there is something I do appreciate about Mr. Trump. Although he's wrong as hell, he's going to fight for whatever he believes in. And I'm going to ask you, are you willing to fight for anything? Are you willing to stand up for anyone? I'm not mad at him. I'm just excited about us being here today, picking our voices up, getting ready to fight. Let's do some good.